Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our next in a series of webinars, Tests for Success, Tips for Emails, Ads, and Landing Pages. My name is Dave Clement. About that. So thank you for joining us today. And what we're covering today in this webinar is, first off, we're going to start a little bit about testing basics. Just what you should be thinking about when setting up a test. What is A/B testing and multivariate testing, and when are the best times to be using them? A little bit of time today is talking about some email testing ideas, from subject lines to front fields, email body messages, and some client examples. So the goal of this webinar is to give everybody a handful of things that you can start testing today that we've seen will greatly improve your overall results in a short period of time. After we talk about email, we're going to do a little bit about display advertising, anything from Facebook advertising to web advertising, and what you should be thinking about as far as elements that you should be testing. And then we will talk a little bit about landing page testing ideas. So you can drive tons of traffic to a page, but if that page is not optimized to give you that result you're looking for, whether it be a download or a sale or a lead form, whatever it may be, you're not going to see the best results. Talking today, okay? First, my name's Dave Clement. I'm the Director of Digital Products over here at MDR, and also joining to me is today is Sean McLeod, who does a lot of work with our clients as far as our display advertising and web audiences. So, this webinar that I hope a lot of you guys were able to attend or watch is we were asked a lot of questions about testing in the webinar. So we felt that this would be a great webinar for a follow-up that would be very valuable to everybody on the call, because the reality is you can be testing subject lines and getting click-through rates if you're setting up that test properly and analyzing those results and really testing the things that are going to get you the most bang for your buck. You're not really going to get the desired result. So without further ado, let's talk about some testing basics. First off, no matter how simple it is, how complicated it is, really has four major components and four steps that you should be thinking about when setting up that test, or even considering what you should be testing. First off, you need to analyze your data. And there's only two types of data that you're going to be working with. There's qualitative data, and that's really the descriptive data. That's where you're going to test. So we're going to test the subject lines, or we're going to test the design of our email, or our web page, or our headline in our ad. We're quantitative. Now, that's numerical data, okay? So that's the 10% click-through rate, or the 15% open rate, or 98% deliverability rate, okay? So those are really the two types of data that you work with. And quantitative will tell you what you test, and qualitative will tell you where you're going to test. Well, this is a step, in my experience, that a lot of people kind of skip over when setting up a test, and it's probably and is extremely important, is really forming a hypothesis to really find that test and where you're going to get the biggest impact. A lot of companies go, okay, they're excited about subject lines or read an article about subject line optimization, so of course that's what they want to test, or some design principles or some ad principles, and that's when they go, hey, that's what I'm going to test. But by forming a hypothesis, you're really taking a step back and thinking about, hey, we're going to test this, and we expect that this happens, this is why. And I think it's a very important exercise to do before you launch any test, to ensure you're testing things that are really the most valuable for you. Just recently, MDR has been doing a lot of marketing summits for our clients where we're ultimately traveling the country, meeting with our clients face-to-face, and really giving them insights into things that we've been doing. And I recently got into a conversation with one of our clients at this, and he saw my email best practices presentation, and he was all about testing subject lines. So we really started talking about subject lines, and we started talking about his email copy, but then we started talking about his digital advertising, then we started talking about his website. And then through that conversation and really getting a sense of the results that he wanted to get and the resources that he had and the time that he had and the expertise that we have, we identified that really the best opportunity was probably on his landing pages. His open rates and click-through rates on his emails weren't that bad. His click-through rates on his digital ads, there's always room for improvement, weren't that bad. But his conversion rates on his landing page were horrible, and he hadn't tested that in quite some time. And we just went through that exercise and then really talked about, hey, if we were able to improve your conversion rate from a 1.5% to a 1.7%, how many more conversions does it get you, and where's the revenue for it? And what type of revenue will that generate for you? So instead of testing something that probably would have improved results overall on his email, we then identified a major component that was going to improve his bottom line greatly, but also improve results across all channels because that's where he was driving them to. That's the importance of taking time and forming a hypothesis, because in my mind, at its basis, it helps you prioritize where the best ROI is going to be for you at the end of the day. Now, I know this sounds really basic, but a lot of people fall into this trap, and included, is that you really need to think about how to build that experiment. And one thing that always sticks out in my mind is the technology that you're using to execute that experiment on. You say, hey, you want to run a test on a certain element, but if that platform or whatever technology you're using doesn't allow you to test that element in an efficient way or a very clear way, you're probably wasting your time. Aspect about technology and design and even content is, tracking the elements that you're testing accurately. For example, that I've seen for the over 15 years that I've been involved with email marketing, buttons on landing pages and advertising as well, is you'll have 4 elements somebody can click on, but you don't clearly identify and you're tracking the 4 elements. So see, oh, we had a 10% higher click-through rate, but you can't see actually got the most clicks, and then form, rationale behind that. So before you launch any experiment, really take some time with the content design and the technology to first off make sure that you can execute on the experiment you want to execute on efficiently, but also that you can track results so you can then pull learning from that and further improve. You got to interpret the results that you get. Now, this is a major thing, and these are critically important, in my opinion, is that, first off, you must be able to duplicate results. Just because A won one time doesn't mean it's going to win a second time or a third time or a fourth time. So just like with anything, you need to duplicate those results to make sure that they're valid. And this is a very important thing as well. It needs to be statistically significant, whatever your results are. A getting 20 and B getting 18 of whatever desired result you want is not a win. It's a coin toss. So it's not statistically significant. Now, if you had 30 and 20, that's statistically significant. And the general rule of thumb is about a 10% lift. To be honest, it really depends on the volumes that you're working with. Because once again, 20 and 18 really isn't a winner, but as in 900, better. So you need to keep in mind that it's statistically significant. And once again, you keep on duplicating that result. And we'll talk about a little further down the road, multivariate testing, when you're getting small elements, are getting kind of small increases, incremental increases in those results. That's where the statistical significance really comes into play. Because you test 1 million in something, even though it's a 5% lift, it's still 1 million of something because the volume is so high. So that's probably a winner. About the different type of testing that you can do. And it's common that most people are really familiar with is A/B split testing. Now, real simple. You take a version your web page, your email, your ad, your app, whatever it may be, and you test against each other. So here's a basic example that I'm sure most of you guys have seen, that you have version A had 22% conversion rate, you had version B that has 52% conversion rate. Now, it's clear that A won and lost in this example, but you can't clearly identify why A or A lost and B won. Now, the thing of A/B testing and what big believer in is that a big test equals big results. So when it makes sense to use A/B testing, let's say you have a landing page that's getting a 1% conversion rate and you really need it to be at a 6% conversion rate. Or you have an email that's getting a 2% click-through rate, but you really need a 10% click-through rate. There is no reason a button color is not going to get you from a 2% click-through rate to a 15% click-through rate. You really need to be looking at a much bigger changes and much bigger design. It's not button color that's the reason you're not getting through it. It's probably a lot of different things. And also, since you haven't tested it in a while, it's probably worth just throwing a new design out there and seeing what happens. So that's when it really makes sense to do A/B testing. Also, if you don't have a ton of traffic, A/B testing makes a ton of sense as well. Because as we'll talk about on the next slide, multivariate testing, if you're testing different elements like a button color or a headline, or how does a headline interact with bullet points, you're going to have so much traffic and get so much data to clearly identify how those two elements are working with each other. So A/B testing makes sense when you're looking for a big result. And that big result could be the challenger losing, okay? Looking for some type of big result to happen quickly. And if you have a ton of traffic. Testing is a little bit different beast. Multi-testing makes sense after your A/B testing is done. So you have a landing page that is horrible results, isn't anywhere near where you need it to convert, so you take completely different designs and you A/B test them each other. After a period of time, through your learning, you're going to have diminishing return on those big results. So you're going to go from that 1% conversion rate to that 20% conversion rate. But as you're doing that A/B testing, all of us start seeing, hey, the other design got 20% or lost again. So you pretty much come across a control, or that other design tied, and you're seeing that happen more and more. That's when multivariate testing starts making sense, where you're testing different elements of the page to make those incremental improvements. So here's a basic example of a multivariate test. So here you're testing button color and title. And as you see, you know, the example on the bottom one got a 20% conversion rate. But you drive a lot of traffic to be able, because you're ultimately testing about 12 different elements there, okay? So you have to drive a lot of traffic to get statistical significant. Now this is great because, hey, you're converting that 20%. Well, how do we get to 21? How do you get to 22? How do you get to 23? That's where button color is, the text on the button color is, the headlines, the bullet points, a different, you know, supporting sentence. Those little changes to get those incremental improvements. And that's where multivariate testing makes more sense. Okay, so when you want to make those subtle changes to a page, understand exactly what changes are driving that improvement. And that's when you use multivariate testing. So now we spoke a little bit about the basics of testing. So what you should be thinking about when up that test and defining what that test is going to be, and when you're considering, hey, what type of testing are we doing? Are we doing A/B testing or multivariate testing? What are some things you can start testing in an email today to start improving your overall results? And you've heard us say over and over again, is subject line. On a daily basis, we have clients who are not getting great open rates, and they start thinking about the list, the day of time, the things like that. 9 times out of 10, what's going to impact your open rates, or I would even argue 99% out of 100 times, what's going to impact your open rates is going to be your subject lines. It's really important. Taking something from a 5% to a 10% open rate and not touching your design is going to greatly improve your results. It's great to test subject lines because very often you don't have to get designers involved, you don't have to get a programmer involved. It's so simple to test, and the impact it has is huge. So some things that you should be testing on your subject line. Personalization versus no personalization. Every day, I'm shocked how much personalization impacts results on emails when it's done properly. So from, hey, Carrie, your complimentary exam copy is now available, to your complimentary exam copy is now available. Another test is vague versus specific. And I see mixed results. Sometimes vague works awesome, sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the offering and conversation you're trying to have with your core audience. But it's definitely something worth testing. This is the next move for your future. Versus ABC grad program, your future starts here. So getting very specific. Another test to run on your subject lines that again can really impact results is short versus long. Tips for third grade teachers versus 5 changing tips for overworked third grade public school teachers. I would actually be very interested to see what the results from that test were. Another time again to really impact open rates is the front field. So the name of the person and company name versus just a company name. So Melissa Smith, CEO of ABC Company, ABC Company. And we've seen this, and this is just a quick screenshot of, I think, Yahoo. That from is important. And just think about it. You looking at this, are you more likely to open an email from Pattern versus Hubby's? Or Hubby? Yeah. Okay. So using the name often does help open rates. So I would encourage running that test as soon as you can. You can, from the subject line, start moving into email body messaging. So layout, letter versus promotional. I've seen very interesting results with letters versus promotional, especially when you're trying to have a conversation with people. Now versus wide. That's really looking at, different devices and different screens. Long versus short. Is your content engaging enough to really pull people through, or are you better off just having a headline with a couple bullet points and a strong call to action? And once again, paragraph versus bullet points. Also calls to action. Where are people clicking to bring them to the landing page? Does a button work versus a text link? What button color? And remember, everybody's heard my speech about this before. It's not about the color itself, it's about contrasting color. Be interested to see how those color palettes work different with each other, and the call to action on that copy. Does learn more work better than buying now? So those things that you can start testing today on your email, and I want to give you guys a quick example of where we tested the front and the subject lines, and honestly did very little work for huge gains. And we actually had a client who sent out an email through us, and the results were not good. Their unique open rate was about 3%, their click-through rate was 0.13%, and their unsubscribe rate was 0.13%. And of course, we changed the name of the company in this example, but their from was just the company name, ABC Company, and the subject line was earn formal PD credit with micro-credentials. All we did, the design was the same. The audience list they were sending to was the same. We sent it on the same day. We sent it at the same type of day. So this is a pure test where the only thing that changed was the from the subject line and the results. So now we made it from a person, Jane Doe, director of ABC Company, and personalized the subject line. Tennessee K-12 teachers, important information regarding your PD credits. Now, once again, the only thing we changed was the from and the subject line. Okay? Everything else stayed exactly the same. And those open rates increased from 3% to a 10% unique open rates. Our click-through rates looked about quadrupled there. Now, I'll still argue, if I'm testing this, the thing I would start looking at is the design. And even their unsubscribe rates went down because the right people were opening the email, so their unsubscribe rates improved quite a bit. And this is a quick test of their firm subject line. Before we get off to Sean, okay, just want to remind everybody that there is a chat box there on screen. If you do have any questions, please type them in, and we'll try to answer as many as we can that we have time for at the end of the session. And any questions that we don't get to, just like our previous webinar, we will set up a page with the recording and all the questions answered in text for you to refer back to. So I'm now handed off to Sean McLeod. He's in charge of our display advertising over here, and for both social and web ads, and he's going to take some time and talk to you guys about display ad testing ideas.
Thank you, Dave. Hello. You know, to lead off with this graph when we're talking about web ads and the reason for testing, because this graph really is representative of complacency. What we're looking at here is with the creative served to 500,000 impressions, and the purple line is our click-through rate. And if you look, it's very clear over time the click-through rate diminishes. Dave's talking about diminishing returns. Web ads are not exempt from diminishing returns. And one of the things that we suggest for testing is that you want to always have fresh creative. You can't become complacent in the digital world. As soon as you become complacent, your results will represent that. All right, so as you're seeing diminishing returns, as you're seeing that your impressions are rising and your clicks are going down, you want to make sure that you let your audience tell you what's working for them. Right? So we all go into it knowing what we think works, but when we test, we really let the audience talk back to us and tell us what's working for them specifically. What does that look like? Call to action. This is a theme that you see in email, you're seeing in web ads now as well. The call to action is the easiest thing to test in web ads. And the reason it's so easy to test is you could have the same imagery, you can have the same value proposition, and you just put a different button on your ad so you can find out, does your audience want to learn more or does your audience want to buy now? Your call to action directs them to their next step. So what that next step is, not only from your perspective, but from the audience perspective. So as you go through your call to actions, you see, like if you direct your audience to buy now and you get more clicks, then it seems like they're ready to buy. If you learn more and you get more clicks, then maybe you have a product that takes that extra step that your audience really needs to go and research. Okay, too, right? It's about learning what the audience will react to. And one of the most important elements of a web ad is your imagery, right? You're in a competitive space when you're serving digital advertising, and you want to make sure that your image is compelling and drawing the eye. It should have high contrast. What you're doing, we want to see contrast in your imagery. But also, there's other elements to test. You can test static versus animated. You see here with Buzz Lightyear with the eyes blinking. Many of us looked at that image first. But if it's distracting from your message, then we shouldn't really be using that, right? So anything that's happening in your imagery should be in support of your message that you're trying to get in front of the audience, not distracting from it. A lot of ideas, right? You have images for days that you want to test. Multiple ads. Don't try to shove everything into one ad. And that's important because that provides you testing material. Okay? So you don't want too busy of an ad. You want your image to support your message, and you want to test multiple high-contrast images in that vein to see which image best supports what you're trying to get the audience to do. Move on to value proposition. And this is my favorite because value proposition allows you a chance to look at your ad from the audience perspective, right? So you know what the value of your product is. It's inherent in your job as a marketer or a CEO or someone who just really wants to get more purchasing on their website or of their product in general. But what does the audience see as appropriate value proposition? And testing lets you find that out. How are you going to improve their life or make their job easier or increase their efficiency, right? Think of it as the person who's seeing the ad. So not necessarily going to put what you find as the owner of your company or the marketer of your company as the highest value proposition. You want to find out what the audience thinks the highest value proposition is. So it's a little more of that value proposition testing. Now we'll start talking about things like percentage versus dollars. You want to test that, right? Even if the percentage you're offering off of your product is the same exact amount that you're listing on the ad, test it and see what the audience is reacting to that. I think that historically, real dollars makes a difference in an ad compared to percentage, but I recommend that for your specific instance and your specific audience, you test and see what they prefer. Coupon codes. Codes are not only great because it shows an opportunity for the audience to have a discount, but it also is an opportunity for you to measure test results. So if you're testing two different value propositions and you use two different coupon codes, you'll have distinct measurable piece of information on your website or in your purchasing software that will tell you which ad people react to. They take an element of that ad back to your site and feed it back to you as a piece of data. So, use coupon codes in a smart way, and I think you'll find that your testing will be a lot easier to interpret. Testing urgency. Right? So if you have a deal that's ending in 2 days, put it in an ad and test that. If you have a deal that lasts forever, but you want to see if people react to something that's happening in your phase, test it. It doesn't actually have to end in 2 days, right? You're in control of all this. So you really want to see what people are going to be responding to. And the last value proposition test suggestion I want to make is test specificity. So if you're advertising to, if you're an MDR customer and you're advertising to math teachers, you might want to actually put in your ad that math teachers are receiving $20 off. And that little piece of specific information will cause your audience to react or not. But the important part is that you're testing and you're learning. Ultimately, all of the testing conversation is about having a chat with your audience, right? It's about listening to what they react to and coming back to market with that learning and showing that you are listening to the audience, you're reacting, you're developing a new ad, and you're increasing your ROI every time. So listen to the test results. With that, pass you to Dave.
And actually, I want to circle back on something that Sean said at the beginning of his segment that is extremely important. It's any testing. Whether you're testing your email, whether you're testing your ad copy, whether you're testing your landing page, whatever you're testing, it is extremely important to take the subjective out of it. Okay? Let the data speak for itself. You'll be shocked what you think is the way to get a click or get a conversion. And when you look at the data, your audience is telling you something extremely different. And it's always very surprising. I like to share this story when talking about landing page testing, which is going to be our next topic, which really builds right off of Sean's thing. And even the most experienced marketers who have been doing this for decades, myself included, get up some time by putting their subjective opinions in instead of doing a true test. I tell this story all the time. I apologize if a couple people in this webinar have heard it before. But, my previous position, I was director of digital marketing at a publisher, and I was in charge of basically improving subscriptions and other product sales across 30 different magazines, okay? And when it came on, they really wanted to expand out the digital advertising and getting more subscribers to digital advertising. Somebody just doing very specific searches and going to very specific sites around, hey, this type of topic subscription is very limited. Okay? Their subject matter really appealed to, and at the top of funnel, really appealed to broad audiences. So, they really didn't have landing pages. They had content pages with some elements to click on to subscribe for their newsletter or to subscribe to the magazine. So my big pitch was, when I started there, was, hey, if you guys really want to expand this, we can go with broad topics, drive them to a tight landing page, get their email, and then through marketing automation and And autoresponders will convert and content will convert those folks into subscribers. And figured, hey, after 3 months, you know, if we could get an email at $2 an email, after months we'll start seeing our money back, and as we get better, it will improve over time. So I put in a landing page, you know, which landing page best practice 101, okay? Do anything fancy, headline, bullet points, you know, even the core, a picture of the core persona we're trying to market to, look at where I wanted them to click, basic landing page 101 stuff. Gave it to my boss, a guy I learned so much from, working with for 5 years, who really knew his stuff about marketing. He looked at it and said, I hate it, okay? And I needed to be at a $2 conversion for an email. We were converting about at $9. So what we did, remember, go back to our previous topics of talking about A/B testing and multivariate testing. This landing page, nowhere near where we needed to be converting at. Okay, it was converting at $9. We really needed to be at $2. But proceeded to make me do multivariate testing. We were taking a line out, breaking one element, and after a few months, we went from a whopping $9 per email conversion to a $7 email conversion. Okay, I just said, hey, if I'm going to get fired, I'm going to get fired for my work. I popped in my landing page, and overnight we went from $9 conversion to about $2.75 conversion. Now, it's again, brilliant marketer. I learned so much working with him for 5 years. But he let his subjective get in the way of just doing a strong test. And we wasted 6 months of our time and probably wasted about $1 million of our company's advertising dollars instead of just testing it. Okay? And what was the worst thing that was going to happen? Let's say we put it on my landing page and it flopped. Okay, take it down and you move on to the next thing. So I can't stress it enough in real life. Don't subjective get involved. And also, as long as it's not hurting your brand or saying anything shaky or sketchy, there's no good reason to not test something, okay? If it doesn't work, you take it down. And there's never a test, even though we use the term winner and losers, there's really not winners and losers, there's learning. And as long as your tracking is set up and you don't have the subjective in it, as long as you're getting some insights, you'll make a smarter move next time, even if that challenger didn't get the results that you want. It puts you in a better position to get towards the results that you want. So there's my little speech, okay, about subjective. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about landing page testing ideas, okay? Now, landing pages are often overlooked, believe it or not, okay? People take a lot of time with their digital ads, take a lot of time with their email, take a lot of time with their social ads, and all driving to this one element, the landing page. And very often, if you improve your landing page, you're improving the results of all your other channels. So the landing page, in my opinion, is really a good place to start, right? Because if you find improvement on that landing page, if you're driving email to it, guess what? You automatically improved all your email results. You're driving your digital ads to it, guess what? You improve digital ads results. It's that one lever you can pull quickly to improve results across multiple channels at once and give you that ROI to look at it. Now, a little bit about basic principles of landing pages. And we're very, over here at MDR, I have to say, we're very tool agnostic, we're very company agnostic, but the company that I've been following as far as their blog and everything, and there's no endorsement or anything like that, but I do feel they have a great blog. A company called Wider Funnel, maybe some of you guys have heard of it. It's a testing software. Once again, we're very agnostic as far as tools are concerned, but they have what they call the LIFT model, okay? And there's 6 things that you need to do to improve conversions that I think, honestly, are spot on, okay? First off, when you think about your landing page, it needs to be relevant, okay, whatever drove the people to that page. So if your email is talking about blue widgets or your digital ad is talking about blue widgets or whatever is talking about blue widgets, the first thing that there should be seeing that click that thing to that landing page should be something about blue widgets or some highly relevant to blue widgets, okay? So you need to be extremely relevant and extremely clear. People online, they scan, okay? Fractions of seconds to achieve those to achieve that, okay? You also need to reduce anxiety and distractions. Okay? A landing page should be focused on one thing you want them to do, whether that's downloading a form, downloading a piece of material, or filling out a form. The more, and this has been tested over and over again over many years, the more pieces you give people on a landing page, the lower your conversion rate. Very often people go, well, if they land on the landing page, I don't want to give them just one option because it might go away. Well, if they're clicking on an ad about blue widgets, why are you talking about red, yellow, purple, green, every other widget under the sun? They obviously want to learn about blue widgets. Okay, and this going back into my days in e-commerce back in 2006, we actually, start testing our landing pages where somebody clicked on a certain product. They went to the landing page, and the only option they had was to either buy something or leave. And the conversion rates went through the roof. So highly encourage you guys, don't give options on your landing pages. If you want them to download a white paper or fill out a form, that's the option. Okay, but they clicked on an ad that's highly relevant to that if you're fulfilling all the other principles as well. Okay, so reduce that anxiety, reduce those distractions, improve that value proposition. I'm a big believer, and once again, if you sat in on any of my seminars or my webinars, I'm a big believer. The guideline for any type of marketing, in my opinion, is if it gets to the question that how does interacting with this make your prospect's life better, you're missing the point. Okay, you see, Sean touched upon it early, technical jargon, word you like to use. You need to answer the question right away for that prospect. How is me opening this email? How is me clicking on this email? How clicking on this ad is making my life better? That making my life better could be doing their job better, helping their students, whatever it may be. But whatever you're doing, if that isn't answered quickly, how are you making their life better? You're going to have low click-through rates. You're going to have low engagement. Okay. And increase urgency. Sean touched upon it a little bit before too. Things like coupon codes work, to be honest with you. Things like even if the sale, even if you say you have a sale that ends on the 31st, but you really don't care if it's on the 1st, just saying that 31st is going to improve your engagement rate. Okay. It'll increase that urgency as better, or don't miss out. Okay, or doing a download. Hey, for the first 2,000 people that download this, okay, those tactics do absolutely work by creating urgency. Okay, so what are some things you should be testing on your landing page? Oh, and before I skip over, just because I put it on the slide, this is their model that they like to use, and the point is your conversions basically. Okay, and the relevancy and clarity give the plane the lift, the anxiety and distraction pull the plane down. But what really drives it forwards is the urgency, okay? So what we should be testing on that landing page, okay? Now, before I go into the actual elements, I just can't stress enough. The landing page should really have a single purpose, okay? Don't mix messages, don't give tons of options, okay? If you want to download a certain white paper, that's what you're talking about. Everything on that page should be driving for that download or that sale or whatever, or that lead form or whatever you're trying to do, okay? Okay, email marketing or with ads, people don't read, they scan. You need to get their attention right away. So an easy way to improve conversion rates on a landing page is a really strong headline that's highly relevant with a strong call to action. Other thing to be thinking about is value proposition, okay? Does simple copy work over longer copy on your landing page? And honestly, in my opinion, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get a quick download, okay, or some type of quick action, okay, bullet point short typically works. If you're trying to set yourself up as some type of thought leader or subject matter expert, longer copy typically works, okay? So you really need to think about your length of copy. My personal opinion, if you're really thinking about, hey, we just want to get a download, say, hey, why you need to get this download, a couple supporting bullet points of what the important information is in that download, and download it, okay? But once again, if you're really trying to set yourself up as some type of authority, subject matter expert, longer copy typically works. That's when you're looking at the button color, when you're looking at the text on that button, we're using text links or images. Call to action does impact, obviously, engagement rates. And I've seen some tests where learn more does make a big difference versus click here or download now, okay? Now, once again, it's not going to take you from a 2% conversion rate to a 10% conversion rate, but you'll see marked improvement. So it does take from a 2% to a 10%, though, in my opinion, is the headline. Another word testing is imagery on your page, okay? I say video here because, to my, honestly, my surprise, video does really impact your conversion rates. Having a video of how to use your product or somebody talking about your product of your core demographic that your prospect identifies with really does go a long way. And we are getting into that video age. You see it all the time on Facebook and everywhere you work, videos are running. People really do engage with video well, and it does do a good job of helping with conversions. It's true since the days of newspapers till today. Client testimonials work. Okay? It's a legitimacy factor. It makes people feel comfortable. Also, and go to Amazon and look at their client, look at their reviews. Very often, since this is about your core demographic, they can usually talk about the product in a better way to resonate with other prospects than you can. So I'm a big believer in if you're selling a specific product, look at those reviews, look at those testimonials. A lot of times they can greatly inform your marketing copy, okay? But also they do help greatly with conversion rates because they are legitimacy factors. And here, and this once again comes back to my old e-commerce days, guarantees. Okay? Now look, the reality is a legitimate organization on the planet, if a client's not happy or is, or buys something and it doesn't work or it breaks, is going to take actions to rectify that. That's just called good business, okay? But guarantees, those buttons do work, okay? And also, and I just have here 100 to 10% guarantee, and this is another story about testing, is that, back in the day, we proposed to a client, hey, you know what would be really interesting, because he had 100% money-back guarantee, first 30 days, no hassle, the typical stuff, once again, really works. So we're thinking about, hey, how can we take it to the next step, okay? What can we do better, okay? And we just brainstormed, how about we say 110%, okay? And it was legit. If somebody did have he was only going to cover that 110%, but he saw his conversion rates improve in such a way that even if people took advantage of the 110%, he was still making out ahead. Right? So don't be afraid to test things. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work. Okay, you take it down and try something else. Okay? So those are key elements that you can test on a landing page really right away, from headline to your bullet points to your call to action to your testimonials. Okay, so we do have a few questions here. One that I'm seeing right off the bat, and in regards to considering a good open rate percentage for emails. Okay, to be honest with you, it ranges a lot. Okay, we have clients that get a 2% open rate, okay, and are kind of happy with that, depending on what they're selling. We have other clients that are getting 25% open rates, and that should probably be getting a lot better than it. You really need to take a step back and really measure what your goals are, okay, and ultimately what your overall conversion rates are.
I would add to that, Dave, to think about your email deployments as prospecting versus engaged customers as well. If you're sending out a lot of prospect emails and you go out into the blogosphere and look up what a good email result is, you're going to be comparing yourself against a lot of customer lists. And it's to draw that distinction between a prospecting email open rate and a customer email open rate.
Exactly. So bottom line, it ranges a lot. What I would encourage you to do to see what a good open rate is, I'd really track what you've been doing. Okay, and so if your average is 5%, and I'm just throwing a number out there, that doesn't mean anything, okay, 10%, 20%, you know, if you're consistently doing 5%, I would really be asking myself, okay, so how do we get to 6%? Okay, how do I get to 7%? Because you see a lot of studies, and I could say, hey, our, you know, total open rate for our clients, because we deploy about 20 million emails a month for our clients, is our total open rates average is about 13%. But it changes on the audience that they're sending to. It changes on the industry. So once again, I would really try to get a baseline, what your baseline is, and start looking at ways to improve it. Okay? Another question. It doesn't really relate to the topic, but I do want to answer it. Okay? It kind of does and it doesn't. It's really more of a digital advertising, but I do want to answer it. Somebody asked, what are the 2 best advertising networks out there? Okay, and you should using 2. You should be using all of them. Okay, there's a couple things. First off, there's no reason to limit yourself to an ad network nowadays. Whether you're using AdWords, which honestly is about 80%, Google's about 80% of all ad networks out there, or you know the tons of other ad networks. If you're using AdWords, or if you're using MediaMath, or if you're using DataZoo, you're using a lot, okay? So I wouldn't limit myself to 2 ad networks. But one thing we do over here, it's not really necessarily the ad network, it's the audience, okay? That's really the question, okay? And you need to identify that audience. Like one thing that we do over here, over at MDR, is that out of our 7 million educator database, we have about 4 million of those folks pixeled, okay? So what that means is they're a little bit different. So like when you use ad networks, you're going on websites that you think our core market is going to be on, okay? Or if you're using search marketing, you're hitting on keywords that you think core market is going to be doing. When you take native advertising on a website, you're going on websites that you think your core demographic will be on, which is all fine. That's not a bad thing, okay? But since we're able to pixel audiences, we're actually able to say, that ad is definitely showing up to that 3rd grade teacher or that K through 12 principal, which really helps us a lot with getting clients, because we know exactly who we're not talking to instead of just, oh, they should be there, okay? And audiences are becoming more and more important, and like AdWords, for example, are starting to get more engaged with audiences, MediaMath as well, and that is something we help our clients out with, because that's what you're really thinking about is the audience. How do I get my ads in front of the audience? And just 2 ad networks, honestly, isn't the way to go. You want to be on them all, okay? You want to be making sure that you're talking to the right people with the right message. Is something add, Sean?
I do. Just to add on to what you said and then add a different point is we like to see ourselves sort of at the top of the river for advertising, right? So we get, by targeting audiences, we make sure that we're available on every ad network, just to build on Dave's point. But I also like to say that if you find that you really only want to focus on the most popular ad networks, like say Facebook, just know that you're entering into the most competitive space as well. You're going to end up paying more for advertising that you could just as effectively do on some of the smaller exchanges. So just know that whatever environment you're going into, look at the level of competition and see, what the cost per 1,000 impression or what the cost per click is on those networks, and know that if you go into a Facebook or go into straight AdWords search results, you're going to be in a very competitive space.
Great, Sean. So there was another question. I'm kind of going to edit it a little bit to go where you think the question that they were trying to ask is really, what do different types of actions tell you? Like, what does a click rate tell you? Okay, what does an open rate tell you? Those types of things. First, one thing that I do like to touch upon, just email, because you need to think about the different parts of the email, so to say. Okay, so open rates. Okay, open rate, once again, talking about that qualitative and quantitative data. Okay, open rates are really a measure of your subject lines. Okay, there are deliverability issues in there. okay? Because if you're going into spam folders, okay, that's deliverability. That's not really talking about your design, okay? But subject lines, as far as design can, is the element that's impacting your open rates, okay? Click rates is your design, okay? Open rates, doesn't matter how great an open rate is. Nobody's looked at an open rate ever in their lifetime and said, I don't even need to see the email, or I'm more likely to click because of that open rate. It's getting them to the content. That's what the subject line does. Email gets to the landing page. Along the same lines of the video. Actually, here's a fun thing from a client recently, video ads on Facebook, okay? Here's a good one. So once a video starts playing on Facebook, that's as an engagement, okay? So our client has extremely high engagement rates on the video, okay? Extremely low click-through rates, though, okay? So the video was playing, but no action was taken. So on one hand, they were very happy they had these high engagement rates, and we could have very easily said to them, hey, you have awesome engagement rates, but it wasn't getting them any action, okay? So really need to, define those. So those are the types of things, open rate, if you need to improve your open rate, you need to be looking at your subject line. If you need to improve your click-through rates, you need to be looking at your design. As far as your ads are concerned, you need to be looking at that headline and call to action. Okay, video. Because video ads are just like everybody's been on Facebook within the past. Videos and news feeds are, but it's not about the engagement. Okay, it's about the click. When we're talking about digital advertising, if you're trying to drive them to a landing page, okay? Okay, the questions, and here's a quick question. This is more of a subjective type of question, and I'll just read the question. Is an add to landing page asking them to fill out a form for a demo? They received very low conversion rates. Was their factor too high? Okay. Honestly, I'm not enough information to answer that question. Particularly free demos. It really depends on what you're doing, and this is where video becomes so important. Okay, you can actually do a demo in your video. Do a 2-minute video and take a demo. I actually, and this is an e-commerce example, was doing work for, I honestly don't remember the name of the client, but he did like gardening equipment. It had like these snap-tight fences. Okay? And basically what they did videos on how easily it was to put together fences around your garden. And they had all different types and shades. And we still, one video, his conversion rates increased greatly. Okay? So that led to him doing deals for pretty much every single product he had on his site, and it helped conversion rates all the time. Yep.
I would just say that in the digital space, forms are really ubiquitous at this point. Like, you can't land on a website without having a form ask you for something. And I would really evaluate your value proposition, because somebody's going to fill out a form nowadays. They're going to do it because they really see value in what's in return. So if you're using a video to build that value, or using messaging on your landing page to build that value, I think that if you're putting a form up, just know that people are seeing hundreds of forms in a month, and they're being more and more selective about what forms they complete.
Awesome. Great, Sean. So what about time, it looks like? So, we've had the question a few times, how are we this deck in this recording? We are going to put a landing page up that will have the recording, that will have the deck, and any questions that we didn't get to during this presentation, answer them on that page. Also, I just put up my contact information, Sean's contact information. Please don't feel free to reach out to us at any time with any questions, anything we can help out with. And that's it. So I hope everybody enjoyed today's webinar. We do plan on having another webinar in about a month or so. And the next webinar will really be about lead scoring, but also data management. Okay, this is a challenge of a lot of our clients. I'm actually going to have the person that's in charge of working with our clients for data management on the call. As far as people, CRM hygiene, their marketing automation hygiene, challenges we often see from our clients and how we help them fix those issues, okay? So it should be very useful whether you get data from us or not. If you're using a CRM, even if you're using MailChimp, okay, managing your lists, managing your data is extremely important. And we're going to go through some things that we commonly see our clients run into and how we've been able and some tactics on to address those challenges. So with that being said, thank everybody for taking time out of your very busy day. We really do appreciate it. And have a great day.
Thank you.